My name is Hunter Nelson, and this is our General Manager, Robbie Robertson. Robbie, what is your role in our business?
Well, my official role is I'm a human resources manager, and that covers a lot around here. But yeah, I pretty much take care of our employees while they take care of our customers.
What is your experience in the funeral industry?
Well, I've been here for 26 years. I was here when we just had the one chapel, and through a lot of hard knocks, I've kind of been banged around a little bit, but we've came out shining. So, been here 26 years.
What is your take on apprentice training as far as methods go?
You know, we've had a lot of apprentices come through here at one point in time or another. I think that number one, apprenticeship training is very important, and I think there's nothing like on-the-job training for an apprentice. If they're going to go to school to become an embalmer, they should be able to see that for the first time here and experience that here. If they're going to be sitting down with a grieving family, they should see it before they get to school. So I think the apprentice program's got it going pretty good. Yeah.
And what are changes that you've seen in the funeral business over time as a whole?
Well, the biggest change is, I don't know that it's in the funeral industry. I think it's just in the world today is people don't respect death the way they used to. Thus, you got, everybody's wanting to be cremated now. Well, with cremation, you cut out a lot of what we do. You cut out the cemeteries, you cut out the casket companies. So we're having to learn basically a whole new business because a lot of the things that we depended on are now gone with the influx of so many cremations.
What are changes in OSHA that you have seen over time?
Changes in OSHA. Whew, that's a scary word to say around here. Is OSHA.
You are our general manager, our HR rep.
Yeah. I would say OSHA's not as scary as it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably the best thing that happened was when they put all those crazy MSDS papers on the DVD.
We don't have all the binders in the embalming room anymore. Yeah. And what are changes in the laws that you have seen?
The changes, well, changes I'd like to see or changes that I've seen?
Changes that you have seen.
That I have seen. Well, when we had our incident down here in Noble, Georgia, that changed a few laws.
For the better?
Yeah, probably in the long run. I mean, it's just hard to get used to.
Yeah.
It's, once you get used to them, it's fine. But I think in a way, it's with the introduction of Gavers and Verism. I think both of those are great. There's just a few little kinks they need to get out of it.
You had to relearn the system.
Relearn, yeah.
What are changes you've seen in visitation, whether it regards to like a traditional funeral or maybe visitation and then a cremation afterwards or something?
Well, that all goes back to what we discussed a while ago. It's almost like people don't respect death the way they used to, and that's a generational thing. I'm assuming we have a lot of people who just won't just come in and say, let's get this done and get it over with. It's not like grieving. And our owner, Mr. Wilson, he's forever talking about the grieving process, which I agree, there is a grieving process. So if he's right, in 20 years, we're going to have a bunch of crazy people running around out here because they didn't grieve properly, which he could be.
Could be.
But as far as the business goes, there again, that's changed the way we look at things because we were used to the conventional, it was a 3-day turnaround. It's not that way no more.
One day.
Yeah, it's one day or actually 3 or 4 hours is what they're after. And the building's not full at night like it used to be.
Well, it's last night.
And I just think that's hurting us as a whole, not just as a funeral industry, but people in general.
Yeah. Is on the business side of that, how do you think that as a funeral home you combat the cremations and the lack of money coming in?
If I knew that, Mr. Wilson would probably give me a raise right now. Actually, that's what we're trying to figure out.
And I think the whole industry.
It's not us. It's everybody.
Yeah.
You're having to. There's a new heat in town, and you either get burnt by it or you learn to cook with it. One of the two. So we're trying to learn to cook with it.
Yeah. And y'all did pretty good by putting a crematory in 1996.
Yes, we did.
I didn't realize that it was that long ago.
Yeah.
I was born that year.
And the reason we put it in.
Because
the Marshes down the street were doing some things that Mr. Wilson didn't like. And thank God he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on the distance education or online student?
Well, I think as far as funeral director and embalmer goes, that's really the only way you can do it.
Yeah. Unless you lived.
Well, there's so much of it that's on hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like an English degree or a math degree. Those you can go sit in a classroom and basically get everything you need, but not with this. No.
Yeah, they always tell us in class that we're taught the theory. We have to go learn everything else ourselves.
Yeah.
This question is actually supposed to say, what did you learn in school that you still use? But since you never went to mortuary school and are not a licensed funeral director, I'm going to ask you, what did you learn like in sort of your first training when you first started back here 26 years ago that you still use every day?
Probably the fact that when people come through those doors, they're looking for help. Mm-hmm. Or even on the telephone, they're looking for help, and it's our job to give them the help. Mm-hmm. We need to put ourselves to the side and look at them and see what it is their need. You get people that are praying, you get people that are drunk, you get all kinds of people that walk through the front door.
Yeah.
And I guess early on, I figured out you got to help them all. Mm-hmm. You can't tell them turn around and go back out the door because you're not saying the things I want you to hear. So,
right. Yeah. What qualities do you think are important for a funeral service employee, whether it be a funeral director, embalmer, manager?
Well, first quality, anybody that works in the funeral industry, is compassion. We've got to realize that the people that we're dealing with they're going through something they may go through once or twice in their whole life. Mm-hmm. And they don't know how to handle it. There's no book. I mean, there's a million books out there, but no really way you do this.
No textbook way to do it.
Yeah. So, taking care of the family. What was the question again?
What qualities are important for funeral service employees?
Compassion, the ability to calm a situation down. I don't know if there's a word for that, but what would that word be?
Calm a situation down.
Calm a situation down. Yeah, we'll go with that.
That's all one word.
The ability to take a bad situation and make it workable. Mm-hmm. You're not going to make them happy.
Right.
It very seldom do we have people come in here and go, "Oh, I'm happy." No, but we just make the situation better. Yeah.
And if you could change, introduce, or amend a new funeral law, what would it be?
A new funeral law? Well, it would.
Or just change an existing one or anything.
Definitely would do. Right now in our world, definitely would be centered around cremations. Mm-hmm. The process could be a lot
smoother,
a lot more efficient. Yeah. And as far as applying for the death certificate, as far as the doctors go, maybe pay a little more attention to on their side. I know there's a set time frame for them to do that, but you know it only takes 30 seconds to do it now with the
look and make sure that the cause is right and type your name. But
so I would say if I could change something, it would be with the process of dealing with cremations.
Okay. Well, thank you, Robbie. Tell Miss Smith bye.
Bye.